Good morning. So today we're going to be doing Unit 3, Reading 1, Food from the Old World and the New World. Food from the Old World and the New World. So this starts on page 69 of your book where you see a map similar to this. And sometimes, at least in the United States, we call different parts of the world the Old World and the New World. So this part, Europe and Africa and Asia, this area was called the Old World, and then all of the Americas would be called the New World. So this was the Old World and this was the New World. So people began to move from the Old World to the New World around 500 years ago, which means sometimes we say the 15th century. The 15th century actually means the 1400s. Okay, so that's how it probably is in many places, but just as a reminder that the century name is always 1 year ahead or one number ahead of what the actual century was. So we're going to be reading this article, and I'm going to read it paragraph by paragraph, sort of slowly, and go through the different questions with you guys. And that is going to be just to help you. I tried to do this with one reading for each unit, so it's more like being in class. So let's begin. Paragraph 1. When it is time to make breakfast, what do you think of? Coffee and eggs? Perhaps a banana? What about your favorite dinner? Pizza and chocolate cake? Chicken and rice? Meat and potatoes? Today, many people eat foods from all over the world. However, this has not always been possible. In the past, familiar foods were not available everywhere. So the question in the side asks us, what does this mean? And when we have a word like this, it refers to the whole previous sentence. Many people eat foods from all over the world. This, eating foods from all over the world, has not always been possible. Okay, so that's what that refers to. So when I look a little bit ahead and I look at the questions for this reading, I do notice that the questions for this reading start with paragraph 2. There's no questions about paragraph 1. So I'm going to go ahead and keep going so that I can finish paragraph 2 and start answering some of the questions. So let's look at paragraph 2. It says, a big change occurred about 500 years ago when people from the Old World began to explore the New World. They found many unfamiliar kinds of food in the New World. They found potatoes, peanuts, tomatoes, chilies, corn, and chocolate. Today, many of these New World foods are very common in Europe and Asia. Okay, so let's see about the questions that we have about it. So here, first we want to say which one of these is the main idea of the paragraph number 2. So we can look at the main idea sentences that we have and see which one we think is the main idea. So you can pause it so that you can think a little bit about what you think the main idea is. Hopefully you are able to identify one of the questions that fit. There are two that, so the correct main idea for this one is actually letter D. Before explorers came to the New World, many familiar foods of today were not available in the Old World. So this is about how in the past, people could not, in the Old World, like Europe and Asia, could not have potatoes, peanuts, corn, or chilies. Okay? So let's also look at question number 1 for a closer look. It says, before the 15th century, many familiar foods were not available to everyone in the world. And this one is true, because these foods are familiar today, but in the past, they only really were in one region. So now we're able to have them in more parts of the world. Paragraph 3. The explorers brought food from the Old World with them. There were many foods that the people in the New World did not have at that time. For example, there was no milk, cheese, or bananas. People of the New World did not raise animals for food. Instead, they hunted wild animals as well as birds and insects. They did not raise chickens, cows, pigs, or sheep. These animals came to the New World with the European explorers. And you see this word twice, raise animals or raise chickens. And raise means to help something to grow. So we can raise animals, we can raise a garden. We also raise our children. We help our children to grow up. So what's the main idea of paragraph 3? Paragraph 2 was about how the explorers found new foods, but paragraph 3 is about, if you want to pause it, you can, but I will keep going. It is about the opposite. Before explorers came to the New World, many familiar foods of today were not available in the New World. So this means that some of those food, like milk, cheese, and bananas, were not in the Americas, that the explorers brought them with them. Okay? Paragraph number 4. Oh, wait, I think I forgot a question. Sorry, guys. Okay, what kind of animals did people in the New World raise for food? Remember, we said raise meant to help something grow. So think about the answer based on the paragraph. Look back and see, and you can pause it if you need to. The correct answer is D, none of these. According to the reading, the people in the New World did not raise animals for food. They hunted animals. So those animals, sheep, pig, and chickens, were brought from the New World, from the Old World to the New World. Okay. As a reminder, this article has a lot of things about sort of colonialism, which is not the best, or you know, there are many items that are not discussed in this article. And we can discuss them in class if you would like. So, number 4. Between the 15th and the 17th centuries, explorers from Europe and Asia brought plants from their countries. They started to grow these plants, wheat, apples, and sugarcane, in the New World. These crops are now very common in North and South America. Today, some countries in the New World are the biggest producers of crops that began in the Old World. For example, Brazil is the world's biggest producer of coffee, a crop that began in the Old World. So maybe you know this word wheat. Wheat is the flour that we use to makes flour, like for bread. Crops mean plants that we grow in a large amount, for example, on a farm. So if you have one apple tree in your garden, that's just an apple tree. If you have 100 apple trees, that is a crop. Okay? And of course, maybe you know this word producer. It is a noun from the verb produce, and it means to make something. So Brazil now produces coffee, but coffee started in the Old World. Okay? So here we can see which one we think the main idea is. So let's talk a little bit about what do we think the main idea is. So letter A, some New World crops were very successful in the Old World. This is not the main idea of paragraph 4, because paragraph 4 is about the Old World crops that were growing in the New World. Number C, people from the Old World planted crops in the New World. In fact, this one is correct because it talks about how some of those crops, like coffee, were from the Old World, but they were planted in the New World. Okay, let's see if we have a closer look question about this part. And we don't, so we'll go back up and read paragraph 5. Paragraph 5. This exchange of food went in both directions. The explorers also brought new foods back to their countries. They planted crops such as corn and potatoes, which became very important in the Old World. Many New World crops are easy to grow, even when the soil and weather are not good. New World crops like potatoes could also feed a lot of people. This increase helped the world's population grow quickly in the 18th and 19th century. Do you know this word soil? Soil means the dirt where plants grow. Okay. And hopefully you know this word population. Population means the number of people in an area. Make sure you have a look at this chart. It's pretty interesting about where some of these foods started and which country is the biggest producer today. So it's super interesting. Let's go ahead and look at the main idea. And here we see, if you want to pause it to think about it a little bit, you can. But here we see that the main idea for paragraph 5 is this one. Some New World crops were very successful in the Old World. This means some things like potatoes grew very well in some of those other countries. So let's go ahead and look at these questions about potatoes. What were some of the reasons for the success of potatoes in the Old World? So when potatoes were brought from the New World over to the Old World, why were they successful? There are several important reasons, but let's go ahead and review the paragraph a little bit. So let's read this part. Many New World crops are easy to grow even when the soil and weather are not good. They could also feed a lot of people. So when we review these, it says they're easy to grow. They can grow in bad weather. They can feed a lot of people. This one, they are not expensive, is true, right? When we buy potatoes in the store, usually they are not expensive, but it's not in the reading. That's why we don't want to read this one, or circle that one. Number 4, what was one result of the success of these New World crops? Letter A, no one was hungry. The population increased. Some foods became too expensive for poor people, or people stopped planting Old World crops. Let's review the paragraph to see if we can find the answer to this question. It says the increase in food helped the world's population grow quickly. So does this actually mean that no one was hungry? No. It means the population increased. It doesn't mean no one was hungry, but overall the population increased. All right, let's read paragraph 6. Some New World foods like corn and potatoes were available to almost everyone in the Old World. However, other foods from the New World like chocolate and pineapples were only for rich people. They did not grow in the Old World, so they were rare. People could not pay for them. Poor people could not pay for them. In the 17th century, pineapples were so valuable that people did not eat them. They put them on their tables like flowers. So just a couple of vocabulary words here. Rare means special or unusual, difficult to get. Okay, not common. And we also have valuable. So both of these are adjectives. Valuable means worth a lot of money. Let's go ahead and check those parts. Of course, we only have one answer left. Let's see if we were right. Some New World crops were very expensive in the Old World. Yes, that does match the main idea of paragraph 6. And here we have coffee is one New World food that was available only to rich people. Coffee was one world food that was available only to rich people. Did they talk about coffee in this paragraph? Go back and look. No, they didn't talk about coffee. So we're going to mark this one false because we're not really sure about coffee. And actually, coffee was an Old World food, right? Because they said it started in Yemen. Here we have a question about figure 3.1. That's the table. Brazil is the largest producer of sugar cane. So we could actually just quickly check that one now before we read paragraph 7. So here we have sugar cane. It started in South or Southeast Asia, and the biggest producer today is Brazil. So we will mark this one true. Okay. Now let's read paragraph 7. Many different foods are available all over the world today, so it is sometimes difficult to remember that this was not always true. 30% of all food plants in the world today came from the New World. Think about ice cream. 3 of the most popular flavors of ice cream are vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. All 3 of these flavors are from plants. 500 years ago, these plants grew only in the New World. Next time you make dinner or a snack, think about how much of it has its origins in the New World. So it's a very interesting area, very interesting topic that we can see. So let's look at paragraph 7. According to the reading, were the following foods originally from the Old World or the New World? So look back in the article to see some of these answers. Take a minute, pause your video and do it, and then I'm going to check the answers. So first of all, corn. Corn was from the New World, and that is in paragraph 2. Chocolate. Chocolate was also from the New World. We can see it in the table. We can also see it in paragraph 2. It says it started in Mexico. What about bananas? Look in paragraph 3 for the answer about bananas. Bananas were from the Old World. They started in Asia, I believe. Okay. How about apples? You need to look in paragraph 4 for the answer about apples. Apples were from the Old World. They came over to the New World. How about potatoes? A very famous food. That's in paragraph 2, also in the table. It started in the New World. It started in the New World. And sugar cane, caña, sugar cane, which is a very interesting part, is in paragraph 4, also in the table. It started in the Old World. Finally, we have tomatoes, which is in paragraph 2, and this one started in the New World. Okay, so hopefully that helps you to check some of these readings about this interesting topic.